I guess there was an easy side to the World Cup after all. Yes, I think tonight is an ominous sign for England tomorrow when they're playing South Africa. I think the easy side of the World Cup was a little bit exposed here. I think maybe we could have fooled ourselves into thinking that there was these are semi-finals, so everyone's going to turn up and play and be competitive. And as you can see, it was a bit of a blowout and it got late early. I don't think Argentina played badly by any stretch of the imagination, but there were some key things that just let the game get away from them. They started off great. I think their attacking rugby looked cohesive. It was low risk, but it got over the gain line and it was showing some promise, but came up against an All Black defence that's starting getting, I mean, they've always been good at it, but getting very good at knowing when to commit to the breakdown and when not to. You can see that most of the time there's like one or no one committing to the breakdown when the ball is not available, meaning they have as many defenders as they need out wide. And the moment that they feel like they can pounce, there must be a call or something, or they must intuitively know, right, this is it, we're going in and we're turning over the ball, because they are just so good at it. And up until about, 35, 38 minutes, Argentina found it really hard to get over the try line because of this. They just felt like they got into generally around the 22 area of New Zealand, and they just started running into a brick wall. So, yeah, they just kept running in, and eventually they just get the ball turned over, and New Zealand didn't look like they were in any danger. Defensively, Argentina looked really strong in the first half. I think they were great. The defense was aggressive. It was organised. They were really kind of keeping New Zealand at bay right up until the try right before the end of the first half. I think that was really quite impressive of them. And I did make some notes. I was making notes just before halftime, hoping they were going to be my halftime notes, basically saying Argentina's defense is stout. It's looking okay. They're starting to work out how to get past this New Zealand line, either up and unders to Mark Talia, which I think is really key. I think he was a little bit uncomfortable for them. I think that's a key area that whoever plays New Zealand in the final, I mean, let's be real, it's probably South Africa. Whoever plays them in the final are going to see that and see that there's a weakness that you can maybe just tease out there, getting up and unders on that wing. And they were starting to put grubbers in through as well, that sometimes they weren't catching up to, but at least it put New Zealand right in their own territory. And I think New Zealand looked a little bit uncomfortable trying to get out of their own 10 metre from a set piece. Granted, if it wasn't from a set piece from a broken play, they were really good at getting out of their own 22. They would look and would see that the attack was obviously just suddenly turning into defence, and they could turn the counter play into something beautiful. And it was I think it was like the third try or something that they managed to score a try basically off a play that had started from a turnover within their own 22 area. Richie Mwonga goes out, Ioane makes a break, and everything starts getting chaotic from that point. I just felt that when New Zealand had the try just before the first half, the game was pretty much over at that point. The score was too great. Argentina would lose. They would lose some of their pizzazz. They would lose some of their spunk. They would lose some of their moxie, knowing that they were down so far. And that is what eventually happened. The game got away from them, the score got away from them, and I think the floodgates broke through. However, I don't think it had to be like this. Being completely fair to Argentina, they were penalised a lot in defence, multiple times called for going in at the side at mauls, multiple times called for either being offside or going off their feet at the breakdown. Penalties they didn't have to give away, they were unforced, and if they hadn't have done that and it had been half time and they hadn't allowed that try to go through, who knows, maybe we would have had a more competitive game in the second half. But their penalty count added up, and I think it really added to New Zealand kind of getting away with this game pretty early. I mean, maybe it's the difference between New Zealand winning the game at the 39th minute and comparing that to winning it at the 64th minute. But I definitely think that we probably would have had a more competitive game and something more watchable if Argentina hadn't given those penalties away. And again, if I'm going to be fair with saying that, I'm also going to be fair in saying that Argentina, even though they were 9 out of 10 clinical, which they would have to be, 9 out of 10 clinical rating in terms of just being surgical what we're doing, not making mistakes, they were at a 7.5 out of 10, right? They did pretty well. You do this performance against Wales, and I think they probably had a pretty similar. I don't know what the penalty count is for both games, so don't shoot me if I'm wrong on this, but you look at the penalty count, and it was probably pretty similar, right, to what they had at Wales. You know, it's nothing crazy, but this is New Zealand. You know, it's the best team in the world. If you get penalised, you know, it's repeatedly for the same thing. They're just going to know that is there, and they're going to keep picking at it. And New Zealand did in the end. Another thing to say as well is that the New Zealand scrum completely dominant. I mean, no ifs, ands or buts on this one. Just looked better. It didn't look like a competition, and that's kind of like a bit of a cheat code for them to get up the field, get ball in good areas, and if they feel like they've knocked the ball on, they think, well, we could probably get a penalty from the scrum anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I was really invested in the first half. Obviously, the second half rolls on, more points scored. You start getting less invested. I think you've probably learned as much as you can about New Zealand going into the final by this stage. A lot of the substitutes come on, the game plan kind of changes a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see New Zealand in the final for sure. And well done to Argentina. They've had a starting bit slow in the tournament. They've improved a lot more. They had a great game against Wales in the quarters. And yeah, they can probably leave the tournament with their heads held high. They weren't perfect today, and that's why they got kicked around the park a little bit. But they didn't embarrass themselves. We'll put it that way. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Argentina playing England next weekend. But yeah, no, that's it for me. Not much else to say on this one.